Hello, are you ready to make some money? Well, if you are, then great, you're in the right seminar. My name is Dwayne Groom, and my job today is to show you how to make some now money. In fact, I'd like to accomplish three things with you. One, I'd like to have some fun, and I hope you're ready. Number two is I want to give you some good information on how to make more money in less time so you can have a lot of fun in your life. And third, I'm going to show you how we can join forces with you and possibly double, triple your income with our 8-week productivity challenge that is now available online. But first, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. I've been a master trainer since 2002 with over 3,000 graduates in my 8-week productivity challenge and over 10,000 in my one-day workshops. Now, I believe there are four types of realtors or four types of real estate agents out there. Let me explain. The first is the unconsciously incompetent realtor. They don't even know that they know nothing. Yes, that's us. After we got licensed, we didn't realize that we needed some sales training, and that's what I'm here for. The next kind of realtor out there is the consciously incompetent realtor. That's when you started to realize that you didn't know anything and you started to ask for some help. You went to a mentor or to your broker and said, what do I do? I need to start making some sales. The third type of realtor that I've seen is the consciously competent realtor. That's when they start to know what to do. For example, if you take the 8-week productivity challenge, you'll know exactly what you need to do. You'll become consciously competent. And since it is week after week, which we call spaced learning, I believe that you will become the unconsciously competent realtor. At that point, you'll know exactly what you need to do without thinking. So let's see here. Today, I wanted to make sure that I teach you some things here, specifically 4 areas and 8 skills of top producing real estate agents. So I'm going to go over how we can book some more listing appointments. I'm going to show you how to be in control of the listing appointments. I'm also going to help you to learn how to generate leads more than 10 ways in this little workshop right now. Also how to handle objections and how to protect and even increase your commissions. And of course, we'll go into how to master your attitude and manage your time and help you have some balance between your personal and professional life. But before we get started, I need to talk a little bit about some faith. I need a little faith here. So here's a quick story. So there's a man walking down a river valley. He slips and he falls. And as he's falling, he grabs onto a vine and he's just hanging there, gang. And he looks, like if he lets go, he's gonna die. So at this point, he thinks I got nothing to lose. So he looks way up and he says, "Is there anybody up there?" And a deep voice says, "Do you believe?" And he says, "Yes, yes, help me out of this mess." And a deep voice says, "Then let go of the vine." The man pauses for a second and then he says, "Is there anybody else up there?" Folks, I need you to let go of the vine today if you want to increase your income. We're going to show you how to do the beginning of how to do 50 deals a year working 40 hours a week or less. That 8-week productivity challenge that is now available online that you can do it yourself, and I'll tell you more about that at the end of this seminar, is what's going to give you the freedom you need in this business. It'll show you how to do maybe 30, 40, up to 50 deals a year working by yourself without an assistant. But once you hit about 50, you're going to need an assistant. Then it might get you to 60 or 70 deals a year. And then if you want to build a little bit of a team with a few realtors, you might get up to 100 deals a year. So pay attention to today's seminar, but be ready at the end when I tell you exactly how it's going to work for you on the 8-week program. So let's be a little open-minded here, shall we? Be optimistic and recognize your opportunities. Remember, an optimistic person looks for the opportunities in things that are not always that easy. And speaking of opportunities, like I said, we're going to show you how that works with the 8-week productivity challenge. So maybe take some notes here because I'm going to bring up a PowerPoint slide right now and I'm going to go through it very quickly. The good news is you can rewind this later and play it over and over as many times as you want. All right, so let me bring up the slides here. And I just wanted to let you know that there are basically 4 areas in our life or 4 areas in our real estate, in our business as well, okay? And these 4 areas are people in our lives, prospects, new and existing clients, and ourselves. Now, my job in this other than just to show you how to make some now money, my job is also to educate you, but my job is also to entertain you. So I'll have a few funny things to share with you. So maybe you can have a few laughs with that. Also, we'll try to get you to participate a little bit and think on your own a little bit. Plus, I want to motivate you so much that even after just this little short workshop we're doing right now, that you're going to earn some money immediately. Sounds good? So let's talk about people in our lives, like let's say family. And we want to make sure that we love and support your family any way you can. And now to have a successful, you need to have a successful home life. That way in business, you'll be successful, and relationship sales is the way to do business, gang. Okay. And that'll help you with growth. But get involved in the community. Keep in touch. You probably should get focused on getting a geofarm area. So the bottom line is stay focused, gang. When you're at home, be at home. Try to, when you're at work, to be at work as well, okay? And that's a mental thing. And you always have to have the attitude that it's a good market, no matter what's going on. In any market, if it goes up or down or sideways, the top producing realtors are always making a living. So do you know when you're really in a recession? It's really when you're out of balance, gang. So you need a good home life. All right. So here's a question for you. Like I said, I'm going to go pretty fast here. So what is the number one thing most agents hate to do? Yeah, that's right. They hate to prospect, right? But top producers are prospecting every single day, gang. So, there's two methods that I talk about to generate leads. All right. And one is proactive. That takes a little bit of time and effort. And the other one, probably the most important one, is reactive. In other words, having a marketing budget. All right. And between the two, I'm going to give you more than 10 ways. You want to make sure that people are coming to you. And so top producers have mastered these. Here's another tip for you. Get involved with the community, because our governments are making sure that telemarketing is a thing of the past, gang. We've got the Privacy Act, the no-call list, and anti-spam legislation, and there's even some restrictions coming for door knocking as well. The third area is new and existing clients. So top agents look after their clients. And for your new clients, under promise and over deliver. Have you ever talked to an expired, somebody that's talking about who their experience with the previous realtor? Think about that. And be honest, even if it hurts, with your new clients. I'm just talking about pricing and timing and things like that. Now, with your existing clients, stay in touch with their permission, gang. Otherwise, you're starting over every January, isn't that right? Keep your clients informed about the market and make their number one goal your number one goal. One deal will turn into more than one. It'll turn into 7. It might even turn into 10. It might even turn into 15. So your attitude is to join forces with the client and be a consultant. So no pressure sales. All right, gang? All right. So here, I want you to take a moment. Remember, I said I want you to participate in this. I want you to write down how much you want to make for a gross income in the next 12 months. If you're brand new, don't put less than $100,000. If you've already made $100,000 in this business and you want to make more, then put 150 or 200. If you've made 200, then let's aim for 300. If you've made 300, maybe aim for 500. And I just want to read a little poem to you here. It might help you to maybe even give yourself a raise today. First thing is, you have to understand that it's a numbers game in this business. So figure out what you want in the next 12 months, write it down. I'm going to read a poem for you. Maybe you can increase it by 50,000 right after this poem. I bargained with life for a penny, and life would pay me no more. As I sat in the evening and I counted my scanty store. For life, you see, is just an employer. He'll pay you just what you ask for. But once you set the wages, why, you must bear the task. I worked for a menial hire, only to learn in dismay that any wage I would have asked out of life would have willingly paid. Isn't that something, gang? So let's go into the fourth area here. But first, write this down. Customer service is more important than technology. Customer service is more important than technology. Write that down. So the fourth area is ourselves. And we need to sharpen our skills all the time, gang. It just reminds me of this story I've been saying for years. It's just a funny little story here. There's this fellow, he's been single all his life. He's 50 years old. He's had a great career, or he has a great career, and he's built himself a new house. It's probably over 3,000 square feet. It's only a couple of years old. but you know, it's a bachelor pad, so to speak. The biggest thing in the living room is his TV screen. He's got a big sofa there, loves his sports and movies. And you know, the rest of the house is just set up like any other bachelor pad. You know, there's not a lot of things in there. No, not a real family environment or feeling in there. Anyways, one day he meets the woman of his dreams. Oh, yeah, and they fall in love. Oh, and he says, "Will you marry me?" And she says, "Yes." Oh, and guess what? They decide that they're going to live in his house. And one day they're watching a movie, and he gets up off of the sofa and just walks into the kitchen without saying a word because he's so used to being single, right? And he emerges out of the kitchen with one bowl of popcorn and one soda. And he goes to sit down without even looking at her. And she says, "Hey, honey, you just brought one?" He turns and he goes, "Oh, I forgot mine." Now that's skill. Would you agree? All right. So sharpen your skills, gang, all the time. Next thing, constantly upgrade. So you're going to want to do the 8-week productivity challenge online on your own. You're going to get a lot of support from us. You'll even be able to have some one-on-one with me as well. Everything is recorded for each week. And this way you can master the techniques and dialogues, and then you can just be yourself, of course, with the skill set that we teach. So let's learn some of these skills here that I'm going to give you. But first, I just want to remind you that the difference between a pessimist and an optimist, all right? So a pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity, and the optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty. And you need to understand that both of that is in us, and whichever one surfaces, you have to understand if it's being pessimistic, you may have to put that aside. You have to be optimistic in this business at all times, okay, gang? Because there's a lot of adversity. All right. So the first thing we need to do is master some keys to success. But first, just a quick testimonial here. You can see that Sharon here has been in my course many times, and she just said that she had 8 listings sold in only 4 weeks. One of the things you're going to want to do when you take the 8-week productivity challenge is focus on getting 8 listings as quick as possible. That's one of the things we talk about in lesson 1. And since she's a very driven person and set high goals for herself, you know, in the past, she'd overworked and being tired, eventually unhappy. And then she took the course and repeated it a few times as well. It worked very well for her. The techniques are simple, but very powerful because I try to keep it simple. I use the KISS theory, KISS, keep it simple, salesperson. So it helped her to get on track and work smarter rather than harder. And that's what you need to do, because in this business, you get paid for an end result, not for the amount of time you put in, until, or at least until you build your business, or after you build your business, excuse me. I recommend this course to everyone. She says it works no matter where you are in your career. You all need the support, motivation, challenge, and accountability. And just remember, if you can get 8 listings as quick as possible, she did them within 4 weeks, you might be able to do it within 2. It might take you all 8 weeks, but you're on track to become a top producer, especially if you master the 8 keys to success, gang. This will help you to do real estate in a good market and a bad market. I mean, I could parachute you into any city in North America with your cell phone, and you could get your business up and running so quick. So let's talk about these 8 keys to success. The first one is you got to have a great attitude, gang. Give yourself a checkup from the neck up every day or every hour if you have to. A good attitude makes adversity booster rockets, not anchors. Okay, gang? And you have to book lots of appointments. And yes, you hear the S's a lot, because it's not just book one appointment and stop. It's book probably a minimum of 3 seller or listing appointments a week, and you'll still have a few buyer appointments as well. So get listings, like I said, and buyers will just fall in your lap. And number 3 is generating leads for these appointments. Getting the phone to ring is extremely important. These keys also line up with the weeks for the course. So the first key to success is attitude. That's what we talk about mostly in lesson 1, is about getting set up, getting organized, going over your manual, making sure you have a great attitude, and getting you ready for your weekly activities. And then you have week 2, booking appointments proactively. After that, we want to make sure you know that you need to get your phone to ring. So in lesson 3, we're going to go over how to market yourself. We have a number of ways in how to get online leads and to build up a geofarm area and keep in touch with your past clients. The fourth key to success, which would be lesson 4, would be to master your presentations, buyer and seller presentations, for sale by owner presentations, expireds. There's restrictions in certain areas. We go over all that as well. And of course, the fifth key to success is if we're going to get listings or work with buyers, we want to make sure that they're priced right or they're qualified for a mortgage for the buyers. So price and net is important. It's specifically the method of presenting price. So you're going to show them how most successful sellers pick the right price. And with the buyers, you're going to let them know what their monthly payments will be so that it'll make it easier for them as well. Then we have objection handling techniques. Logically handling objections, and if logic fails, you'll switch to emotion. We'll teach you how to do that and when to do that. Then the seventh key to success is business operations, and we're going to show you how to take care of your business so that your business will take care of you. It's about building a business that makes you money even when you're on holidays. Wouldn't that be great, gang? And we have time management, which is your most valuable commodity, gang. And we'll go over the secret a little later. I just want to let you know the real estate agent that controls the inventory, controls the market. And, we need to separate the looker from the buyer. You need to qualify them, as I mentioned. And what do you call an agent that just drives around lookers? They're not qualified. They're never writing offers. You know what we call them? Instead of real estate agents, we call them wheel estate agents. Yeah, I know. Sounds a little bit funny. And you know what? Let me show you how you can make more money in less time so that you can, or let me show you how you can make more money in less time so you can have more fun in this business. Just understand that if you focus on bringing a listing each week by booking a minimum of 3 appointments and you keep on trying and trying and trying, someday you'll get so good that you'll always get a listing every single week. And let's pretend that you were just to work about 40 weeks a year, all right? If you were to work about 40 weeks a year, then you should get about 40 listings once you get very, very good at it. Isn't that right? So if we went that only 90% sell, because people sometimes change their mind, then let's say we have 36 listings sold. And if our average commission is $5,000, and if you're in some areas where the commissions are higher, you might times this by 10,000. So 5 or 10,000. I'll do 5 just to keep it conservative a bit. So 36 times 5, if you want to write this down, is $180,000. $180,000 just by focusing on getting a listing every single week. And that's only if the commission was only 5,000. Probably be more like 8 or even 10 for most of you, but let's just stick at 180, okay? Now, there's a couple of other things that like it's not even the best part. The best part is you get business off the business. How many people are going to call the yard signs that you maybe help them buy another house? Out of the 36, you could say 10 or 20, but let's just say 5. You go 5 times 5,000, it's $25,000 more. And then how many of the sellers that you made homeless are going to want you to help them buy a house? So you might say 10 or 20 again, but let's say 5. So there's another 25,000. I'm just being very conservative, right? What about all the marketing you're doing for these listings? You're going to put it online and you may have some conventional marketing to do, and somebody might call you off of some of the advertising. How many people would you convert into helping them buy a house? Oh, let's say 5 again, even though it might be more than that. How many of these, if you're in an area where you can double end a property, some places you can't do that, but if you could, you might have 5 more, right? Or maybe out of all this, you have a few people that call that want to buy, but you find that they have to sell first. So there's another 5. At any rate, 180,000. And if we just added 25,000 just 4 times, that's 280,000, almost $300,000 just because you're focused on getting listings each week. That's the key, gang. All right. So let's go into the second area here. Like I said, I told you, I'm going to go pretty fast here. My goal here, again, is to show you how to make some now money, get you excited about your career, and then get into the 8-week productivity challenge where you'll be able to do probably, depends where you're at. If you're new in the career, you'll probably do about 10 transactions in the 8-week program. The class average that I usually do over the last couple decades averages closer to 2 transactions per person per week. And that's what you should aim for, is 2 transactions per person per week, even if you're brand new. And the average agent in North America only does about 6 deals a year. That's 1 every 2 months. And you would probably do 10 if you're brand new in just 8 weeks. And if you've been around for a couple of years and you're already doing, let's say 10 to 15 a year, you'll probably do more like 20 in the 8 week productivity challenge. And if you're a veteran that's doing about 30 deals a year or more, you'll probably do 20 or 30 in the, well, the top producers in my course has always been between 30 and 60 or 40 and 60. Last person was at 48, I believe, transactions, yes, in just 8 weeks. So you can do it too. But you need to have a reward, specifically a smart reward, right? And so you need to be laser beam focused. If you don't know what you want, you probably will get it, which means nothing. So once you sign up for the 8 week productivity challenge, lesson one will say you need to come up with a reward that you're going to buy for yourself or do for yourself and your family in the next 8 to 10 weeks. And we'll talk about that in lesson one, but it should be specific. A lot of agents do sun and sand. In other words, they'll work hard for 8 weeks, and then in the 9th week, they're on their way to Mexico or to the Mediterranean for a week or two or longer. But you want to be specific. You're going to make it measurable. And how many listings, like I said, over the next 8 weeks, if you're in the productivity challenge, you're going to keep track of how many listings you get. Remember, you're going to keep track of your buyers as well. And it's going to be very attainable. You're going to make it realistic. And that's what drives you as well, gang. The reward is for yourself. After all, who's doing all the work? Isn't that right? And you'll track your results. We do have sheets that you can keep track of your listings and sales. All right, gang. The reason we do this is SMART goals will give you energy. SMART goals will give you a lot of energy. And the third skill is commitment. Now you take your reward and you pledge your goal unconditionally. You can pledge it to your spouse and your family, and you can pledge it to your broker, your manager, any other agents that you have meetings with. Pledge your goal non-conditional and trust and let go to God that it's gonna work out for you. And then you just have to perform and be consistent. Now that's commitment, isn't that right? And you just don't have to do more than you said. If you said, I'm going to try to book some listing appointments, I'm going to follow the weekly activities, I'm going to take a day off a week to recharge, I'm going to master my listing presentation, I'm going to convert my calls into a face-to-face meeting, all of the training that we have for you. You just don't have to you just never try to do less, at least for those 8 weeks. All right, gang? So another testimonial here from Ken. He said during his career, he had seen many types of markets, but from the moment he attended our training and seminar and finished the first class, he could see his productivity increase. So he says, Dwayne tells you to make sure you have a goal or a reward, and that's what I was letting you know. So during the course, he had set one, but his car broke down, so he had to set a new one. And while I was giving the tools he needed to increase his success, he got his goal, a brand new BMW. So he says, we give you down-to-earth marketing techniques and how to convert into face-to-face meetings based on some of my experience. And when you apply what you learned, you too will have a great return. So let's talk about generating leads here. This is where you definitely want to take good notes, gang. You may want to repeat this after I go through it, rewind it, and go through it again. There's 2 methods, as I mentioned, and I said there's more than 10 ways. Number one is proactive. Proactive is for somebody who's brand new, so they can create a good skill set. Proactive is also for anybody that's in a slump. You want to get out of that slump. Proactive is also if you have to do some of these things for your client. And it's things like, if you do some community involvement, if you start volunteering in a neighborhood and maybe you sponsor a ball team or a hockey team, or maybe you join Toastmasters or the BNI, the business network in the area, you could get some referrals and people, will recognize that you're a realtor in the community. There's a door knocking system we teach you in lesson 2, as well as how to do an open house. There's a survey approach that we have. These are the proactive activities. Also, how to approach a for sale by owner and talk to expireds, and it's different in different regions. So I go over some of the restrictions as well. One of the best ways, I would call it probably the number one way, is to see if you have phone numbers. You're going to want to create a sphere of contacts. So you could warm call your sphere of contacts, or reach out to the neighbors to any of your listings, or the neighbors to any of your sales. if you get a listing in your geo farm area, I would probably go and door knock 10 houses across the across the street, and 5 houses on each side. And just let them know about the listing. The neighbor to listing is what it's called. So there's your proactive activities. Now, once you're in the 8-week program, in lesson 2, we go further in depth in these areas here, which help you to master them. The other one is reactive, how people react to your marketing. In lesson 3, we go right into generating leads to get your phone to ring and get leads in your inbox. All right. So number one thing that'll help you to generate leads is to advertise your listings online and print if there's any ones that work in certain areas, right? And there's a 10-point checklist you'll get in lesson 3 on how to advertise your listings. So your phone is ringing more and there's leads in your inbox. Also, target marketing your neighbor to listings and neighbor to sales. That would be sending out just listed and just sold postcards as well. Okay. And there's one story I'd like to share with you. One of the people I was coaching recently reached out to me and said this fellow had called her and said that he wanted to list one of his properties. And in the conversation, she had asked, "How did you hear about us?" And he said, "Well, I got your postcard." And she didn't recognize the neighborhood. What had happened was a year earlier, she had a listing in that neighborhood. It just didn't come to her at that moment. And she had sent out a just listed postcard to about 300 homes around her listing through the Postal Service. And the fellow, I guess, had gotten the postcard and he kept it. And when he wanted to sell, he decided to call her. But here's the real neat thing about this. When he said to her, "I kept your postcard from last year," and then she realized what it was for. And then he said, "I've got 5 properties I want to sell. I'd like to get started on the first one and we'll see how it goes. And then we can do the next one." And the last time I talked to her, she was on the 3rd one, just from a postcard she sent out a year before. Most realtors will try to cut costs instead of understanding that they need to invest in their business. And then there's a big payoff in this in the long run anyways. The next one is make sure you have a geo farm area gang. You should send out a postcard every single month and have some outdoor advertising as well. If you're everywhere, if somebody lives in a geo farm, let's say you're a geo farm area, let's say it's Happy Hills. And every month you're in their mailbox. And when they're driving home, they see a bus bench. And then once in a while, they see a yard sign down their street. And then maybe you do some community events. Maybe you do a client appreciation event or block party, or you do a parade of grad sales. I have a few clients, realtors that have done that I've taught, and they get major success out of this, right? Like who would they want to use? One testimonial I had from a past student was he said he asked them, "Are you talking to anybody else or anything?" They said, "Well, no, of course not. You're everywhere. We're just going to use you." So that's what you want. You want to create consumer confidence, gang. The next is keep in touch with your past clients so you can get lots of referrals and repeat business. All right, gang, I know I kept, after about 4 years, I look back on this one lady that I knew she had referred me a bit, and I double checked, and it was 15 deals and referrals I got just because of one person over a 4-year period. Amazing. Make sure you have a great website for your pay-per-click leads, Google pay-per-click, and that has an input form so that people can fill it out and it comes into your inbox. And finally, social media advertising as well. All right. Now, just remember what we're talking about here. I'm giving you a sample also of the 8-week productivity challenge. So we're giving you what I can to help you to make some now money. But when you take the course, lesson 1, I said, is about getting set up, getting motivated, understanding how the course works, going through your manual a little bit. It's all set up. And then you go out and you follow some weekly activities. Then you come back and you should space it out 1 week at a time. Lesson 1, and then exactly a week later, lesson 2, and exactly a week later, lesson 3, and so on and so forth. So lesson 2, when you do it, it'll show you how to be proactive so you can make some now money. But we believe the best way for you to do business is for them to come to you. So in lesson 3, we go into reactive marketing. Every single area you see on here, we go into depth in lesson 3. And as a side note, just remember, doing something will always get you further than doing nothing. Now, why did you want to get into real estate, gang? You wanted to get into real estate to make lots of money. I understand that, but have the time of your life. I'll say you got into real estate to make a lot of money and have no life? Of course not. But that's what happens to most people in the business. You want to make sure that you're making lots of money, of course, or your business is, and you're having the time of your life. So what has to happen for you to make some money? Well, to make some money, a deal has to close, cha-ching, of course, right? But what has to happen for something to close? Well, something has to sell. And what's the best thing for you to have sell would probably be a listing. You got a little more control over that. And how do we get listings? Well, we got to book appointments. And how do we book appointments? Well, we got to talk to people. Talk to people, talk to people, talk to people. So there's a direct correlation between talking to people and making some money. All right, gang. So if you're trained and you become the unconsciously competent realtor, what happens is by talking to people, you'll say things without even thinking the proper things from the training, and you'll just make money and have the time of your life. All right, so let's go to the next one here, the listing appointment process. To master the listing appointment, we talk about that in lesson 4. You'll be able to practice it as well. So there is a lead in. Remember that once we talk to somebody on the phone, let's pretend somebody called you on one of your listings. I will teach you how to convert that into a face-to-face meeting in lesson 3. And we'll show you how to bona fide the appointment. So it creates some consumer confidence as well. And then you're going to send a pre-listing brochure, which again creates more consumer confidence. And then you want to get ready. You have to get a folder ready or something on your computer, a file that you can get the forms so that if they want to list the first time in, you're ready, right? You might want to have the call form we teach you in lesson 3 stapled to the inside cover. You want to pull title, understand what the tax assessment is, have the forms for your fiduciary duties, identification, and also the seller agreement and buyer agreements in case they want to buy through you as well. Have your folder ready. And then you want to have your process either on your computer or in a book. Take your key box, if it's a key box area, and a sandwich board with you, and it's time to drive over there. Turn off your phone before you get in your car so there's no distractions. Last thing you want to do is pull up in front of their house, and just before you're going in, check the messages on your phone, and you got something, some adversity it's hitting you, and it's going to set you in the wrong way before you go in. So turn it off before you even drive over there. That's what I recommend. Then you get there and make sure that you're focused on the appointment. Walk to the front door, ring the bell, and once you see them, smile, and maybe pay them just a quick, sincere compliment, how nice the yard is or something like that. And just do one compliment, please. Take them to the kitchen table, sit down, talk about anything but real estate. Once real estate is brought up, you're going to go over your 7-step sales process that you taught in lesson 7. You're going to ask them a series of questions, kind of investigate about what their plans are. And all you do with that, gang, is you ask questions and you write down the answer and don't have a conversation with them. You're just trying to find a problem that you will park it for now and take it out later when you're ready to get the signature. All right, gang? After the investigation, the show and sell would be that you're going to preview the property and come back to the kitchen table and show them how you get the job done with your marketing plan. And to tie it down, that's where you go into the pricing segment and you're going to show them how most successful sellers pick the right price and then go into the forms. And folks, even if they don't want to list, please explain the forms to them. It's going to help them make a decision based on facts. Because again, there's fiduciary duties on the form and there's seller responsibilities and things about material latent defects. Some realtors will say, oh, well, we'll just go over these when you're ready to list. And the next person they talked to explained everything to them. And they said, well, we may as well do it. We're ready. Or they changed their mind. So make sure you explain your forms, gang. And you know what? After you've done all that and they still don't want to sign, it's time to investigate what the issue is. What's the concern? What's the objection? What's the thought process? And remember, this is just an acronym I'm putting up here called listing. So that's why the words are this way. I mean, when you're going to negotiate on your commissions or pricing or length of time, or they want to look before they list, or they want to renovate first, or they were thinking of going private for a while and then talk to you later. It's more like educating them so you can close, but there's a letter N there. So I used negotiate. So sometimes you're negotiating in advance. And maybe they'll list with you. And by the way, once somebody does list with you, you should get out, and you should get out quickly. Don't run. Then they might just think that they made a mistake. What you want to do is just make sure you're not socializing and talk yourself right out of the listing. All right, gang? And when you're talking to people about listing their property, use this word. Call it a performance listing. Right? You tell them that every bit of advertising you do, they're going to get a copy. And every time every week, or maybe it's every 3 days, it's up to you, but you're going to give them an update on what's going on, what everybody's saying, how the showings went, and call it a performance listing. Sounds good, gang? Next, you want to learn how to handle objections. And there's some steps to help you with this, gang. You know what? What's the difference between the 10%, the top producers that make 90% of the money, and the other 90% that are fighting over the scraps? Well, they are constantly closing and they handle objections, right? They don't fold like a cheap lawn chair on an appointment and say, okay, well, when you're ready, call me. They'll say, well, here, let me show you something. And this is what you call it, gang, okay? So we want to make sure that we don't fight it whenever somebody has a concern, an objection, or a certain direction they're thinking. You might say, okay, I can appreciate how you feel, because the customer or the future client is always right, even if they're wrong. It's their own mindset, isn't that right? So you'll say, I can appreciate how you feel. So then it's time to question it. So remember, you've gotten into the kitchen table, sat down, talked about anything but real estate. Once real estate is brought up, you went over a review, sort of. These are the 7 things I'm going to do, and then you said, let me start with the first one. So then you ask some questions to find out what they want to accomplish. Took some notes, and then you previewed the property with them and took some more notes. And you come back to the kitchen table and you let them know how you get the job done. And they may have some questions. And then you should say, I'm going to show you how most successful sellers pick the right price. And you educate them with the comparables. And you do a net sheet. And then you say, let me just show you a few forms here so you can make a decision based on the facts. And somewhere in there, they hit you with an objection or a concern, and maybe you just repeat that it's important to them and reassure them you'll get to it. And then you pick up where you left off. And at some point, you ask them, do you have any questions? Usually it's around step 6. So you've accomplished a few things. And they may say, well, we just want to know if you would do it for less. Or they may say, oh, we were just thinking we'd like to look before we list. And those 2 specific objections or concerns we're going to go over in just a moment. And that's where you'll say, okay, I can appreciate how you feel. Just so I understand, why do you want to go look first? Just curious. And they'll tell you why. You take some notes. And what you do then is you isolate it. You say, is that the only thing preventing you from making a decision? They say, yeah, and maybe take a moment to confirm what is good. So maybe if they want to look before the list, you might say, okay, so the price we figured out is fine, and they'll say yes or no, and the costs are fine, and the chattels or what's included are fine, and things like that. The possession date is fine, the expired date, you know, that kind of thing. Well, if I could show you that by doing it in reverse, that you might lose some money, would you still do it? They'll probably say, well, no, probably, but how's that going to work? And then you'll handle it. You might say, well, let me show you something to help you to decide. In our training, in lesson 6 specifically, there's 8 different objections we go over, and there's visuals that you actually hand over to them. And there's 2 forms of communicating that are very powerful when you put them together, and that is handing over a visual and verbally walking them through it. So there's a visual and then there's verbal, and you put it together. Let me show you something to help you to decide. And we'll go over ones that want to look before the list, and we'll go over the ones that are asking you to do it for less. And you'll show them. And when you're finished showing people, you just close. You just say, that makes all the difference, doesn't it? And they either say, yeah, sure does. Or no, it doesn't make any difference to them. Who knows? But at least you tried. The more you do this, the better you get. So it works most of the time. Isn't that amazing? So do not handle one objection at a time. And let's go on to what I said was they want to look before they list. So don't forget these words. Remember, don't fight it, first of all. Don't ever tell them they're wrong, because they're always right in their own mind. You need to question it, isolate it, handle it. You'll hand over this page here, right? So this is an interesting page. Now, the prices vary across North America. Some places there, you can get the average sale price for a house even is 300,000 to 400,000, and when you get on the coast or in some of the big cities, they're 1.3, 1.5, 2 million even. So I put in some numbers. If they don't quite fit with your area, then just change them. But you know, some of the house prices might be what I put up here, but they could be apartment condo prices in another area. So just keep it simple, okay, gang? So remember, by the time you've showed this, you would have gotten to step 6, if they won't let you get through the steps, and you probably would say you can't help them and leave. So remember, step one was to ask them some questions about what they want to accomplish. Step two was previewing the property, taking some notes. Step three was to let them know how you get the job done with your marketing plan. Step four was how to show them how most successful sellers pick the right price. Step five was just to go over the forms. And step six is just saying, do you have any questions? And that's where they hit you with, well, you know, everything's pretty good, but we just want to look before we list. And you say, okay, I can appreciate how you feel. Just so I understand, can you tell me a little bit more why you want to do that? And they tell you why, you know, they want to be comfortable with what's out there so they don't feel like they might be homeless or something. And you have to assure them that you're the best realtor in town, and you are, and that you'll be able to help them no matter what, and you'll be able to line up the dates, and you know you will, okay? So you just have to make sure that there's some confidence they get from that. But here, let me show you. So, you know, you isolate it, but they say, here, let me show you something. Or if I could show you by doing it in reverse, would you still do it? And, you know, and they say, well, I don't know. I don't see how it'll affect us. They may just still have that mindset. But you say, here, let me show you this anyways. So why don't you folks just write in the price that we figured we'd list your house at? And let's say it was $675,000. All right. So you just get them to write it in, and get them to write it in, not you. That's advanced salesmanship, gang. Because if you sit there and you start writing out stuff, they start to cross their arms and they start to go, oh, look what he's trying to do now. And it's better if you give it to them and give them one of your pens with your name and number on it and say, here, take this. And let's just put in, okay, let's put in the price that you mentioned we might list at when you're ready, 675. And, you know, there's 10 different scenarios that you're going to be faced with in this business. But let's just talk about one where maybe they're upsized and they want a bigger house in a newer area. All right. And so maybe they're, and, you know, before you list their house, you may have to make sure they're pre-approved for a mortgage. You don't want to make them homeless and then they have to rent. They're not going to be too happy. So you want to make sure that you've listed their house, they're pre-approved, and it's, you know, they have to sell their house to be approved for the higher amount. So let's say it's $950. And you just say, let's pretend that we did it the way you mentioned. We go out and we look for a couple of homes, and you find one you really like. And remember this, folks, you let them know this, that when people find the house they really like, the whole family mentally starts moving into it. And that's why they want to write an offer. Remember that dialogue there. Mentally, people start moving into the house, especially when they say, let's write an offer. This is what we want. And then you say to them, okay, if you did write an offer, let's pretend this place is priced right, just for argument's sake, and it's only been on the market a few days, and maybe there's no other offers on it yet. Let's just pretend it's that kind of market, all right? So don't overthink it, just to understand this, okay, folks? How much would you like to offer Mr. and Mrs. Buyer in this case, slash sellers? And they'd say, well, you know, maybe we'd like to come in just over 900, which is pretty low, really, especially if it's priced right and it's new on the market. And they say, we'd like to try to save some money, so we'll come in around 910, and you'll be like, oh, okay. So if I understand this correctly, you want me to let the sellers know, or the listing agent tell the sellers, that you want them to lower their price, and it sounds like wait until you sell your house. Is that right? And they go, yeah, pretty well. And maybe let them know a few statistics that you heard. If you haven't heard them yet, you heard them from me. National Association of Realtors says 7 out of 10 will reject an offer subject to the sale of their home. So let them know that 7 out of 10 and just say, listen, we're not interested. Okay, sell your place first, then come back with a good solid offer. All right. So once they know that, you'll say, so 3 out of 10 might work with us. That they won't accept your offer. They'll probably counter. In fact, if you were those sellers, what would you do? You know, you'd ask your realtor for advice, and this is what I'd let you know. I'd say, well, they want you to wait until they sell their house. And you might say, well, then we may as well counter at a higher price. And that's probably that amount, probably countering at list price. So if you're on the buyer side, you're going to lose the opportunity to negotiate some of that 40,000. Remember to leave the big price in there anyway, or the big amount in there, the 40,000. So you say, then with the advice from their agent, they're going to say, what we'd like to know is if your home is already on the market. So we may as well list right now, gang, before we go look, because first thing you're going to do is 7 out of 10 will reject, 3 out of 10 will want to know if it's on MLS. If it's not, they're going to add it as a term on the counter offer that it needs to be put on the market within, who knows, 2 days, let's say. And they're going to want to know the MLS number so their realtor can make sure it's priced right. That's what they're going to do. They're going to say, we've got to make sure it's on the market quick and it's priced right. Otherwise, we don't need to tie up our property. And they're going to probably add a 24 or 48 or 72-hour clause. They're going to say, we're going to keep trying to sell this place. until we're able to remove the conditions. And if we get another offer, you're going to get that 1 or 2 day period to remove all your conditions. And if you don't, then your offer is null and void, and the other offer goes into effect. Wow. They say that's what happened. Yeah, and that's just 3 out of 10. 7 out of 10 are still rejecting. But that isn't even the worst part. Whoa, really? There's more? Yeah, there is. Because like I told you, Mentally started moving in, and now they countered at full price, but they said they'll work with you. And let's say you folks accepted the counter offer. You come back to your place and you're sitting there thinking, you know what, we might want to get this sold quicker. What do you have to do to your price to get a quicker sale? You notice I'm the realtor and asking them, I'm not telling them. And they might say, probably lower our price. And then you just tilt your head and say, yeah, but how much? And maybe they say 20, 30, 40,000. So now they're paying 950 and they're trying to get rid of their place at 635 with the reduction. So they're setting themselves up to lose about $80,000 or a portion of that $80,000. Then it's time for you to close. And just so you show them this, make sure they write it down so they understand it. Now, folks, even if you decide to do it in reverse with them, make sure you let them know what could happen. Because if you don't and it starts to happen, they're going to look at you and go, why didn't you tell me this? Why didn't you tell me this? You're a realtor. You're the professional. Why didn't you tell us that this could happen? So make sure you tell them. Personally, I wouldn't do it in reverse. I'd probably turn it down after I explain it to them, but that's up to you. Now you'll say this, why don't we do this? I don't mind. Let's put your house up on the market at 675 and let's sell it. Let's get the conditions removed. Maybe we can ask for a longer possession date. That's fine. Then we'll get out and we'll see what's actually available. And then we can write an offer from a strength side of strength instead of weakness and instead of losing money. And they might say, and guess what? When you get really good at it, they do it more often than you think. All right, gang? So that's pretty good. Just remember the fear of loss is a greater motivator than the opportunity to gain. All right. So you have to understand that there's a dominoes effect that can occur that can hurt the realtor. So when some people say, I don't mind doing it, sometimes they get an offer that's subject to somebody else's house. And now theirs is subject to another house. The other one's subject to, the one they got an offer and subject to, one deal falls apart. It's like a dominoes effect. But the worst part for the realtor is this. Let's pretend that it's subject to the sale of their house, and then they find out that an offer came in and they have 48 hours and they can't remove the conditions and they lose the house. One of the spouses is devastated. The kids are devastated. And, they say, when they talk to you, they'll say, you know what? We need to regroup. We need to have a little bit of time here, Dwayne. My wife is really devastated and the kids are upset. And, we'll get back to you. And you know what? You can put your lips together, kiss that one goodbye. You did, I don't know how many weeks work, and you thought you were going to get 2 ends and you end up with nothing. And worse yet, they don't even come back to you. And to add to that, they're even telling other people, if asked, how horrible of an experience it was with you. Just being honest with you, gang. Okay. So don't forget these words again. I'm just going to go back because we're going to go into the commissions here. But remember, don't fight it. Make sure you question it. You isolate it, then you handle it, and then you close. And it works most of the time once you get really good at it. All right. So on commissions, we'll get to that in a moment. Another testimonial. Sam says that, over the last 6 years, he attended like 4 times. He would not be the realtor and business owner he is today if he had not made the decision to invest the time and money in this 8-week program. Each time he took the course, and some people have taken it 5, 6, 7 times just to do it once a year so they can do more income in 2 months than they do in 6 months and have a little bit of time off. They can only guess at the amount of commissions he's earned because of these courses. $1 million. If you can aim for $250,000 a year, you can make $1 million in commissions in 4 years, and you just probably should do the 8-week program once a year. So do yourself a favor. Whether you're new or 20 years experience, you're going to pick up something that'll affect you to help you to make lots of money in this business. So let's talk about protecting your commissions. First of all, if you do it once, you can never go back, gang. I'm going to just say a little disclaimer here. Commissions are negotiable, not just down, but up as well. Okay. And you've heard of commission bonuses. The most common commission in North America is 6% of the sale price. And there are some other marketplaces where 5% is fairly common of the sale price. And there's only a few places that actually have a kind of a strange setup where they reduce the commissions after $100,000. There's only a few places that do that, but they'll charge, like 7% on the first 100 and then reduce dramatically after 100 down to 3 or 2.5%. So it depends what area you are in. One of those commissions will seem normal to you, but 6% is the most common. So I teach on all the different types of commissions. So just remember this: if your commission is 6% of the sale price, or if it's 7% on the first 100 and 3% on the balance, or 2.5% on the balance, whatever is the most common, you should at least stick with that. Fair enough, gang? Because if you cut your commissions for one client and they refer you, you can't go back. The other person won't even use you at all. So just remember that. And the other thing too is if you're going to do a commission of less than whatever's the most common in your marketplace, don't reduce what you're offering to the other agents. Always offer what's the most common. So if you're in a 6%, you should offer 3. If you only take 5, you should still offer 3, is what I'm saying. All right. If you're in an area where it's 7 and 3 on the balance, maybe you offer half is the most common, 3.5 and 1.5 after 100. Then if you only take 6, you should still offer 3.5 and 1.5. Be very clear on that. It's important you do that, okay? Otherwise, you're just hurting your client, really. And it could hurt the profession, and it can create some dissension. Excuse me, I just need a little tea there. But you're working for less. You are working for less. It's coming straight out of your profit if you do it for less, but it is your choice. So just a few things I wanted to mention there. So let's talk about your commissions here for a second. A couple of tips. When you book your appointment, first of all, if they ask you if you'll cut your commissions on the phone, you just say, well, you know what, I haven't seen your home yet, so let's get together and we can talk about it. And if they won't let you come over without telling them, you just say, I don't know, I haven't seen your house. I wouldn't go if they won't let you go to explain it there, okay? And when you get your forms put together, pre-print them in advance. So on, like I said, the most common would be remuneration would be 6% of the sale price, and you're offering 3% of the sale price to the buyer agents. And if you're in an area where it's a little different, like I said, some are 7 on the first 100,000 and 3 or 2.5 on the balance, then show what you're offering to the buyer agent. Pre-print it in advance. And then once you're there and you're actually going through the forms, which is step 5. And remember, in step 4, when you're going over the pricing, showing them how most successful sellers pick the right price, when you do a net sheet, you'll actually bring up the commissions too. At that point, stick with the 6% or the 7 and 3 or 2.5. And if they say, we want to know if you do it for less, tell them that we'll get to that soon, but let's just do the net sheet on the most common commissions first. Most of them will be fine with that, okay? Then when you're explaining the forms, it'll show it there again. And when you ask them if they have any questions, if they say no, they may have changed their mind. You might be able to get that initial for that page or a signature for the contract. And don't bring it up if they say they're fine with everything. But if they do say, well, we're still want to talk about that, and you say, okay, let's talk. Or if they say, would you cut your commissions? You could always just say no. Sometimes people, it's interesting. I've seen people where they've said the commissions are 7% on the first 100,000, 3% on the balance, and we offer 3.5 and 1.5 to the buyer agents. And you say any questions, they go, well, would you do it for less? And you say, no, but do you have any other questions? Some of them say, no, I just had to ask, but I'm okay. I was just told to ask, but I'm okay with what you got. So remember that about half the people will do that. So it's a very powerful technique for you. All right. And I'm going to jump ahead. We've got 7 on here how to protect your commissions, but I want to jump ahead to a visual for number 3, which is called the commission bonus. And I'll come back to those remaining ones. Fair enough. So this is straight from the manual. And if you said to them, imagine if you were a realtor and you had somebody pre-approved for a mortgage and you looked up some properties and you found 6. And 2 of them were offering 7%. Now, if you're in that area where it drops after 100 grand, you'd say, let's say 2 of them are offering 7, charges 7 on the first 100 and 3 on the balance. If you're in an area where it's 6% on the wholesale price, then this still works here. You'd say, so imagine if there's a few that offered 7 and some are at 6 and some are at 5. And you just let them know that we're looking at about half of this for the listing agent, half for the buyer agent, but I want to put the full amount on here. I'm just curious if you were to ask somebody, if you had a choice between listing at 5%, or let me ask you this, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if you had a choice between listing it at 5% and it doesn't sell, or listing it at 7 and it does sell. So remember, if you're in a 6% area, you'd say, if you had a choice between listing at 5 and it not selling, or 6% and it does sell, or if you're in an area where it's 7% on the first 100 and 3 or 2.5 on the balance, you would just say it that way. If you had a choice between listing it at 5 and 3 and it not selling, or listing at 7 and 3 and it did sell, which would you pick? So keep it simple in your mind, and you're going to get one of two answers. One is, well, I don't really want to pay 7 and 3, or I really don't want to pay 6, but if I have to, I will. That's a good client to work with. You can just explain the value there, and that's pretty easy once you do my training and some of the things I'm about to show you. Or they might say, I don't care if it takes 10 years, I'm not paying over, and they give you some discount price, right? Then at that point, you may say, well, I won't be able to help you. But maybe there's a few other things you can do before you let it go over them so quick. So you say, well, listen, if you were a realtor, which one of these would you try to sell first? And they'll probably say, well, the 7, I get paid more if I do that. Yeah. So in other words, you try to sell yours last. And they go, I never thought of it that way. And say, well, and so why don't we do this? And maybe get them to change the 5% to 8%. I've seen commission bonuses of 1% added. I've seen it as much as $50,000 as a commission bonus. And, if you assume nobody will do it, then you don't even try. I'm not telling you what they're going to say for sure. It's a 50-50, but I mean, I want to make sure you try it at least. So you say, if it was 8%, which one do you try to sell first? Well, the 8%. Well, let's do this. Let's go at 8%. Or if you're in a 6% area, you may say, let's go at 7%. We'll offer 3.5. We'll offer 4.5. Okay. If it's 7, you want to keep 3. So you'll say, we'll offer 4. If you're on a place where it's 7 and it's a reduction after 100,000 of 3 down to 3 or 2.5, then whatever the bonus is on 8 and 4, give it to the buyer agent. You just keep what you normally do for the listing side, and let them know that's what you want to do to help them get more money for their house. And you'll be surprised at how many people will say this. Oh, I see that we should offer the right amount, and they'll probably be okay with paying you a proper amount if you built enough value. So the idea is this: you want your 7 and 3 or your 6% on the sale price, and you go for your 8 and 4 or your 7 on the sale price. And because you go for more, they wanted for less, but you get what you wanted, your 6% or your 7 and 3. Does that make sense? If you want to explain to them how it works, you go ahead and you take out 6 $1 bills, or you take out 7 loonies, and you let them know that after 100 grand, we're already reducing quite a bit. So there's not much room there. And you want to let them know where your money goes. So you let them know that half of it's going to the buyer agent, and you really only have, and in your hand, you should only have $3 or $3.50. And you just say, this $1 here, I use to be a realtor, right? I have fees I have to pay, and there's expenses and broker fees and licensing and all that. And that's what I use from every deal. And then you show them one other dollar bill as 1% commission, saying I use this to market your home. And we're in a unique business. I have to invest into your home, and I don't get the money back until we sell. So I have a bit of a risk as well. And then you let them know about the tax man. And you say, basically, there's not a lot left. So you may have 1 to 2%, which is yours. And you let them know you use that to feed, house, and clothe your family. And you're not going to give that up. And if they can't relate to that, then you don't even want to work for them anyways, because they're going to just be trying to take away the money you use for your family or to make a living. All right. And then they might say, well, you know what? How come these other agents will do it for such a low amount? And you say, well, you know what? I just thinking you need to be careful. I mean, by the way, gang, nobody wants to list with a wimpy agent. They want to list with a strong agent. If our agent can't even protect his own commissions, how is he going to protect his client? I mean, if they're willing to give up their money so quick, how fast are they going to give up your money just to get the deal done? I'm just saying, okay? Mutually lower or mutually higher. Sometimes you look at their nets and you say, well, 1% of my commissions is 25% of my net. So if you want to reduce your net by 25%, maybe we can list it at a lower price and it'll sell quicker. I don't have to advertise. So I'm just saying, now you're at a point where you don't even know if you want it. Maybe not even be worth saying any of this stuff at this point, but you could if you wanted to. All right. So let's go to another skill here, which has brought us full circle back to attitude. First thing is adversity in your career must breed success, gang. It must. Never quit. If you don't like your environment, you either leave it, you live with it, or you change it. All right. Admit it's your choice, though, and success is your choice. So brighten up your work environment. Maybe you need some flowers or artwork or good furniture. You should have your own office. It should be a professional office so buyers can come and see you at your office. If you have it at home, then you should consider a business center. Watch for detours, other businesses that you have. Real estate has made more people rich than any other business. And don't let negative coworkers get you down. There's some people that make things happen, others that watch things happen, and then there's others that say, what the heck just happened? You want to be, if you're thinking of the 8-week program, then you're the one that makes things happen. All right. Notice your own patterns of behavior and eliminate negative behavior and focus on positive behavior. Okay, gang? Ask yourself what you want and insist on it. So you need to insist. Oh, another testimonial. I knew that was coming up. So Cheryl says in her 12th year in real estate, after going to the free intro, which is what you just got here, she knew this was the 8-week was a ticket to refreshing her career. And in the 6th week of the 8-week course, she got crazy busy. She currently has a number of listings and she signed a 6-unit conversion. And she says that we'll show you all the tools you need to be a top producer. And this is by far the best return on any investment she's ever had. So you need to insist that this will be your best 12 months ever, depending on when you sign up for the course. Look at it for 12 months. What do you want to make in the next 12 months? And let's see if we can get 6 months of that income in the 8-week productivity challenge. So let me show you how this could be your best 12 months ever. All right. So the 8-week productivity challenge is a spaced learning program created specifically to increase real estate agents' production. I have to make you productive. So when you take the course, I'll give you a little idea how it'll be. So you'll have to sign up. You have to pay. I'll get to the pricing in a moment. And then you'll get instructions on how to access the site. You're going to want to print off your manual. And then you want to schedule in your calendar when you want to do lesson 1, and you want to space them 1 week apart, hence 8-week productivity challenge. Now, we're going to give you a little extra time with the password, just in case you have to have a skip week, or let's pretend something happens in life and you can't do something for a couple of weeks. So it's not going to be shut down after 8 weeks. It'll go for about 16 weeks. And the reason I want to do that is some of you may not get it done in 8 weeks. It may take you 10 weeks. Oh, okay. But I'd like you to have a chance to review it over again as well. So we're going to give it to you for 4 months, and we'll go over the price in a moment. And what you'll do is you'll be schedule it on in your home office or your office, and you'll watch a recording of me teaching to a class. And what I did was, our classes are from 10 to 3. And we recorded it the whole time. We paused it for the breaks, and then we edited the video so it wasn't any longer than it had to be. So when people were taking breaks, that was paused. So that's out. When people are role playing, because all it sounded like was a bunch of noise, everyone's talking in the room. So we edited that out. So instead of 5 hours of training, it's less than 3. It's more like 2.5. And so what you probably should do is maybe start at 10:30 in the morning, watch an hour and a half, and then have a little bit of a lunch, and then watch the remaining hour, and do that once a week on Mondays or Tuesdays or Wednesdays. And you'll take good notes. And at the end of the lesson, it'll have some weekly activities that you follow that top producers do. And you'll work on it for a whole week. And then the next week will be the next lesson, and you'll do the same thing. All right. We're specifically showing you how to increase your income and build a business. So there's a consistent result of 1 transaction per person per week or better. I've seen it as high as 3.5. Well, I've actually seen it higher than that, but I'm talking about a more of a common one. I've seen lots of agents averaging well over 2 and well over 3. There's a combination of skill development and mandatory activities. So We remove the option to fail. Now, since my very first class in 2002, I've graduated over 3,000 realtors in the 8-week program. You know, like I said, I have 10,000 or more that have been in one-day events, but 3,000, think about that for a second, right? You know, I might do a class with 20 people or 30 people in it to 2 or 3 teams of 10. And that's how many people have graduated. And it's interesting. I'll fly into a city and I'll rent a car and I'll be driving to the hotel I'm going to teach in, and I'll see just on outdoor advertising alone, not even looking online or any print advertising, but I'll see outdoor advertising with all kinds of agents that I've had in my classes. So I'm very proud of that. Now, you want to focus on more than one transaction per week. And so remember, we have the 8 keys to success to put you in control of these keys to succeed. The 8-week productivity challenge has attitude, appointments, leads, presentations, price, objection handling techniques, business operations, and time management. And I went over that previously, and I told you I'd give you the secret to time management. Here's the secret, gang. You want to write this down. Here's the secret. Do high income producing activities first each day, like building inventory. Do high income producing activities first each day, like booking your listing appointments before you do anything else. All right. So this course has the 8 keys to success plus 30 power tools. So 2 or 3 are in each lesson as you're going through the course. And there's 143 step-by-step systems, plus the psychology of dealing with buyers and sellers. So this is not a theory or lecture course, even though you get a lot of information. The course, it's a course in progress, income producing, practical experience. And, you know, you want to compete against yourself in a sense where you want to hold yourself at a high level of accountability. You'll make a tremendous amount of income in 2 months. So it includes materials on our site. We've got, when you get access to you'll get a password. You'll go in there and you're going to want to take the manual and the covers, and I would say download them onto a memory stick, a USB. And I would go to a business center like Staples and just say to them, I want you to print off this manual and the covers, maybe with a coil, or maybe just get them to print it off and buy yourself a 1.5-inch binder and 3-hole punch them, but put the covers, and you can see how thick it is. It's pretty thick. And I would not double-side it. I would always leave a blank page on one side, because you're going to take a lot of extra notes. There's one side for the PowerPoint, and there's one side here that you should take a lot of notes. All right, gang? And in the materials, there's also audio tracks. You're going to want to listen to the audio tracks while you're just driving around, going on appointments, or in your office. And they are a studio version, shorter. They're only about 40 minutes instead of 2.5 hours. Now, don't hold back from learning this by not watching the video, of course. You want to totally watch the video, turn your phone off, watch the video, take your notes, and then when you're done, follow your weekly activities and listen to the audio tracks while you're out and about for that whole week, okay? There's also PDF samples of a lot of the tools that you folks will be putting together for your business. Now, the role playing, you probably want to practice a little bit in your office, even just sounding it out on your own. If you have somebody else that's doing the course with you folks, it's good to role play, all right? Now, spaced learning means you should do it once a week, lesson 1, and then a week later, lesson 2, and a week later, lesson 3, and so on and so on and so on, okay? Don't try to cram the 8 lessons in 8 days. It'll get very confusing, right? You got to get out there and do some practical experience. Now, you should be keeping in touch with your broker to understand any market updates. There's going to be some assignments I'm going to give you. It's called weekly activities. It basically says each week, go to work at least 5 days a week. Next, it'll say book a minimum of 3 listing appointments. At least try to do that. Separate the lookers from the buyers. Listen to the audio tracks a minimum of 3 times. And then there may be a couple of tools that you got to put together. And starting to build your sphere of contacts, and take a day off and keep track of your stats. Next, there's amazing rewards with this. You will get a certificate, which is a certificate of completion. An accomplishment is always great when you're working on building your business. Most importantly, though, you're going to learn how to have a business that'll help you do 50 deals a year, working 40 hours a week or less, By the time you hit that, you'll need an assistant. And you'll make a tremendous amount of money in your career. You make $1 million within a couple of years. And in the course, you'll probably make $50,000 to $100,000. There's a little bit of strike system I have in place there. You're going to want to do that for yourself. If you're running into any trouble when you keep track on your weekly production, if you are unable to complete certain things, this is a place to check off that you were unable to complete it. And once you have had trouble up to 3 times, you can reach out to me. I will give you some one-on-one on Zoom. You will have access to my calendar, Calendly, I think it's called. And let's say a couple of weeks goes by and you're going, I don't know if I'm doing this right, or I could use some help. You'll just send an email to my office. You'll get a link you can click, and you'll be able to pick a time that I'm available, and we'll be able to do 30 minutes. And you'll be able to do that a couple of times if you like to, okay? We believe in consultative selling, not combative selling. So if you have the desire to succeed and you're going to understand the rules, and you say, I know I need some help and I'll do what they're asking me to do, then you're the right person for this course. All right, gang? Now, you want to make more money, and we will show you how to do that at any level in your career. So again, if you're a newly licensed agent, you will learn a proven method of success right off the bat. So we won't have to untrain you next year, or you won't have to risk quitting within a year, like 80% quit within a year, and the other 80% of what's left quit within the next year after that. So you want to be doing it right in the beginning. And if there's any agents that need some help, otherwise, some agents who need to start making money so that they can stay in the business. So next year, you're still in the business, all right? And experienced agents who want to make more money in less time also should take the course. So maybe there's some excuses you find in your mind right now. Sometimes, I don't know, it's the wrong time of the year. I'm not sure when you're watching this right now. Maybe it's summertime, maybe it's fall, maybe it's spring. But when is the best time of the year to make money? You have to decide that for yourself. You want to make money right now, then follow my instructions coming up in the next few minutes so we can get you into the course. Too far away? Well, like I told you, this one's online, so you can do it wherever you want. Can't afford it? We've have a price point that's pretty affordable. The costs for me to fly in and rent a meeting room, stay in a guest room, and pay the airliners and rent a car are not here with this. So the cost is a lot less than what we normally charge. I'll get to that in a moment. Want to think it over? Well, think about it for a day or two and talk to your spouse, and then just dive into it. Get us the enrollment form. We're going to stay a little old school with this. We're not going to do it electronically. We'll show you how that's going to happen in a bit. And you say I might miss one. Remember, like I said, we're going to give you up to 4 months to do it. So you may go 2-3 weeks and get some good momentum, and maybe you're going on holidays or something. That's fine. And then come back and pick up where you left off. If you said I don't need the help, Dwayne, I'd say, well, and don't take the course then. I appreciate you listening. Maybe you can refer someone to this who could really use it. That's no problem. Here's another testimonial from Sarah. And she just says, taking the 8-week productivity challenge changed the way I conduct my business in a positive way. And I now have systems and scripts that give me the confidence to go out and prospect, book appointments, and land listings. This course focused and motivated me. I will be recommending this program to as many realtors as possible. I can't thank Dwayne and the team enough for helping. And thanks. All right. So there's a good testimony. There's quite a few there. Now, most of the courses I've done, we've kept track of our stats. And when we did the classes in the meeting rooms at the hotels, we've seen that our averages were around $40,000 to $50,000, and the commissions are even higher now from the time of this print. So you will probably make well over $50,000. And we had a class we graduated just a little while ago. Here's another testimonial with one of those fellas. Jason says that he did 15 transactions in the 8 weeks. Actually, it was 15 sales, and then he had 15 listings. So he had about 30 transactions. My challenge was how to make more money while having a more balanced life. We recently had a son, and I wanted it to be more productive, especially now that we are a one-salary household, and I wanted to have the ability to spend more time with my family. The format of Dwayne's course made a lot of sense. He liked the idea of 8 weeks of continual learning, being held accountable, and being around other positive students. in a positive environment. I've taken Dwayne's course numerous times, and people ask, why do I go back? And it's simple. This course elevates your productivity no matter what level you're currently at. He had his most productive 2 months ever with 15 real estate sales and a number of listings as well. That's what we should have added in there, but you can't help but succeed and raise your income. All right. So this is what you can expect. All right, gang. So just remember, since 2002, I've been teaching the course in person, like you see in this picture here. All right. And now that I'm a lot older and I'm not going to be traveling as much, I decided to put my course online to make it available to everybody to help you. So there is a price differential, and what's being recorded is me teaching in a class like this. So it's going to be like you're just there. But let me show you what you can expect. If you just do one transaction a week in 8 weeks, that would be 8 transactions. And if we just went at 5,000 a transaction, and some of you might go 10,000, but if you did 4 sales and 4 listings during, and 4 listings sell during, and 4 after, because we show you how to price things right, then the total sales on average would be about 8 sales during the class, for a total of $40,000, and probably another $20,000 after the course. So you're going to be making about $60,000 minimum, and that's being very conservative in the class. Okay, now let me ask you, if I referred some business to you, how much of a referral fee would you give me back? Most people do 25%. So 25% of $5,000 is, I think, $1,000. And if I referred 8 deals to you, that's like $8,000, and we don't charge anywhere near $8,000 for the course. In fact, let me go over the price for you here. Now, we're online right now, so you wouldn't need your pen. If you look after this video, below this video, you'll see an enrollment form that you can save on your computer, and you can type in all the information. Or if you want to use your pen, you can print it off and fill it out. All right. So the normal price of our course is $16.95 when I fly into each city and provide everything, like the meeting room and all the materials and all that. And it's going to be a lot less for the online course. But just remember that $16.95 plus GST, if you were to do one of my in-person courses, remember education is tax deductible. But for you to do it online, you're going to save $1,000. All right. So it's $1,000 off. So the online course will be $695 plus just GST. My company is an Alberta-based company, so we just charge GST, and that's it. All right, gang? And so just remember this. The course is not an experiment. The course, I've been doing it since 2002. Over 3,000 past students since 2002. Okay, gang? So I'm just going to leave this up here again, the price. So you get it for $695. It's tax deductible. You will actually print off or save this enrollment form and fill it in, and then send it to my office. There's an email address on the form itself. So we're going to stay a little old school with this. You'll actually email it to the office. Then my assistant will process the fee and send you an email with the instructions on how to get access to the website and how to get set up to do the course. And we will be there to support you all the way. If you're right in the beginning, you're not sure what's going on, then you just reach out to us. You can call us. There's a toll-free number on the form as well. And you'll call us, and we'll make sure that we're helping you get started with the course. After a couple of weeks, if you need some help, you'll be able to get a link to set up a Zoom meeting with me. So there's nothing here to prevent you from making a lot of money. You can make a lot of money with this. So I just read a little poem, and then I'll let you go. Let's just stop sharing the screen here. There we are. I'm back here. Okay. So bride white of hair. Bride white of hair is stooped over her cane. Her footsteps need a guiding. While down the opposite church aisle, with a wan, toothless smile, her bridegroom in wheelchair comes a-riding. Now, who is this elderly couple thus wed? Well, you find when you look a little closer, here's that rare, most conservative pair that waited until they could afford it. So, you know what? Don't wait, gang. Find a way to get into the course. The price is pretty affordable, as you can see. So take your career to the next level. Fill out the enrollment form, send it into our office. Let's get you all set up. fair enough. Let us know that you want us to help you. So God bless you, and we will see you in class.